Hi everyone, I'm making this video because I wanted to make a second video discussion for Women's History Month. So in the first video, I talked about the process that I went through in maturing and growing into my womanhood. So this particular video, I'm going to focus on one aspect that I mentioned before in the last video that has happened to me as a woman, and it is harassment, specifically harassment in public places and on public transportation. So in this video, I am going to be going into detail of my experiences of harassment in public places and on public transportation. I'm going to share with you the lessons that I learned from it, what you may do if you're being harassed or if you're in a certain situation, things that you can do, and also to just let other women know, or like other people know, that they're not alone when it comes to harassment in public places and on public transportation. So I'm going to be putting this trigger warning in the video. I'm going to be going into details of the harassment. So if that is something that really triggers you and it makes you feel uncomfortable or have bad memories, then I understand if you don't want to watch this video. I also have a few disclaimers. So I'm going to be describing what my harassers looked like what their race was, like how old I think they were, they're like all of that. So if you see a pattern, it's not me coming after a specific demographic. It is literally me just sharing my story of those who harass me. I am also going to separate my harassment into categories: harassment at my jobs, harassment in my neighborhoods, on buses and trains, and also on the street, like walking down the street. This is probably my fourth time making this video because I had a very difficult time with the other two videos. I just got way too emotional. I also had an incident of harassment on the bus maybe like 4 days ago, and I'm going to end with that example. I have some things right here to calm me down because I really do get triggered. I have my tea steeping. It's white oak bark, lemon balm, horsetail, and collagen, and bamboo because I'm trying to strengthen my bones. And I have my kalimba that I don't know how to play. I just do that to have calming sounds. I also have 4 buttons that I want to show you, and the reason I placed them on me is because I feel they relate to the topic that I'm talking about. So the first button is of Malcolm X because he mentioned specifically the treatment of women of African descent and how they were disrespected and also neglected. This is a button, Allergic to Dusties, that I made. I'm selling this button, I guess, on my website. This button I got a couple of years ago, and it is to raise awareness of assault. This happened to a young woman where she was RAPED by her taxi driver, and his excuse was it couldn't happen because she was wearing too tight jeans, so gaslighting. And this button right here says, "We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters or perish together as fools." And I personally believe that it doesn't just take one group to stop harassment, street harassment, harassment in public places. It takes all of us working together. So let us begin. I'm going to begin my first incidents of harassment happened when I began living on my own. So right now I am 32. I'll be 33 this year. So my harassment officially began when I was about 23 or 24 4 years old. Some of these categories that I have differing times, so I apologize if I'm going back and forth. So let's start with 20, let me see. Okay, let's start with just harassment in my neighborhood. That actually led to street harassment. So one day, or when I got my first apartment, I was about 26 years old. It was 2015. I had never had an apartment before. It was my very first apartment. It wasn't like an extremely nice neighborhood, but it wasn't a very terrible neighborhood. I obviously lived by myself. I also had my ex living with me at the time, and he stayed there on and off. But I went every day to work. I would go to work, come home, and my next door neighbor at that particular apartment had an attraction to me, and he would always ask me out, and I would say no. This man was, I think he was biracial. He was overweight. He was in his mid-30s, kind of short, and he was just obnoxious. Like, he had maybe like 2 baby mamas, and he would just sell drugs and drink and basically would stay home all day. In the building that I lived in, you either were working, you were selling drugs, or you were retired. That was literally all I was doing. So one day I came home, and no, I'm going too far. So this dude was angry that I would not return his advances. The first time he really bothered me was one day I was taking a shower, and he knocked on my shower window while I was taking a shower. I don't know if he looked at me taking a shower because I had a curtain. I don't know how long he was standing there, but I wasn't alone in my apartment at that time. One of my friends, he had come out of town, so he was staying with me, and he heard me scream. He heard me screaming, and he said, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "Somebody knocked on my shower window." So we opened the door, and my neighbor didn't realize there was a dude in my house. So he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Oh, he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." So because I wouldn't return his advances, he orchestrated a break-in and a stalking. And I know it was him, even though the police are like, "Well, I don't know." I know it was him because I was the only person that would see me leave at a certain time every day. So like, he orchestrated a break-in in my house. They stole my laptop. They stole my money. It was just really traumatic. And I guess he knew my bus route or something, because he sent somebody to basically harass me on the bus. The person came up to me, and they knew my name. They described my laptop. They described my apartment, and I didn't know who this person was. So I really panicked and said I was going to call the police, and the guy got off. So if you're ever in a situation like that, what I should have done was I should have gone to the realty company that was over my building. If I could go back in time, I would have gone to the landlords. The reason I had moved out to that part of the city, I lived in St. Louis. I had lived in St. Charles, Missouri, and I left there because my entire neighborhood was just so racist, and they were trying to frame me, and they were throwing trash in our yard, stealing parts from my mother's car, scratching up our door, and all of that. So in St. Charles, Missouri, I was just dealing with racism. But now that I'm at this age that I am at now, and all of the street harassment that I've gone through, I'd almost rather deal with racism, honestly. Literally. I know that's horrible to say, but I would almost rather deal with racism than to continue to go through what I've already been through with just harassment. So, as I said, if you have a neighbor sexually harassing you or like doing something, it doesn't mean that they'll just harass you there. They could follow your patterns. They can send somebody after you. You have to nip it in the bud, even if you have to move. Talk to the people that are over your building. The next and last example of harassment in my neighborhood that extended to the street was a building across from where I was staying. There was this guy. He was either Ethiopian or he was Somali. I literally don't know what he was. I just know he was from Africa. He was tall. He must have been like, he could have been in his late 20s, but he may have been in his 30s. And very tall and slender. And he would always ask me out on a date, and I would always say no. And even though I said no a billion, trillion, quadrillion times, he never took my no for an answer. I could say it firmly. I could just say it. He wouldn't listen. So one day, I was walking down the alley in broad daylight, mind you. It was not nighttime. And I don't do that anymore. But I was walking down the alley, and I didn't know this dude was following me. He was so quiet. He was actually walking several feet behind me, like trying to follow me and see where I would go. I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know what he was planning to do to me. But the only reason that I did not get hurt was because, or the only reason I found out he was behind me was because his friends are like, hey, dude, like, calm down, like, come back, like, don't do that, dude. And I glanced over my shoulder. I see him. The only people that could stop him were other men. And I'm going to bring this example up about the power of men, especially in street harassment, to stop street harassment. I believe men could actually completely eradicate street harassment if they really got together and organized something. But anyway, so when I saw what happened, I thought to myself, man, you messed up. You really got me messed up, okay? A curse on you. That's what I said. And then I walked away. I was like, you know what? A curse on you. A curse on you. Like, that's all. Whatever comes to you, that's what happens. So I was gone a couple of hours. And by the time I got home, it wasn't dark, but the sun was in the process of trying to set and all of that. So I go to where he lived, and I see an ambulance outside. And I said, oh my God, what happened? Did somebody get hurt? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, that guy, which was the guy I described, the one that tried to follow me. Yeah, he was on the balcony, which was like 2 or 3, 4 feet high. Or 2, 3 stories high. Yeah, and he fell to the ground. And I was like, he fell to the ground? Oh no. Oh no. So what ended up happening was this guy ended up in a coma for like 2, 3 months. He basically lost all his memory. He didn't even know who I was. He forgot all about me. Just like, look at how all of that worked out. All you had to do was not follow me. So that is the first example, or the first category, which is neighborhood. The second category is going to be job. The reason I want to select job as harassment in public places and everything is that some people, when they think of just like heckling, street harassment, they just think of the streets. They don't think it can occur to them at work. But it all depends on what type of job you have. So for my job, as far as harassment, the first person that ever harassed me on my job was when I was living in St. Charles. I was working in downtown St. Charles as a groundskeeper, and I was the only woman on the job. Our job, or the people in my job, the demographics were like mostly white men, one biracial guy, and then who was like black and white, and a black guy. The one that harassed me was the black guy. He was about 22 years old. He wasn't like overweight, but he wasn't slender. He was just like I guess, average size, average build. He worked with me, and he had this attraction to me or whatever. But at the time, I had my ex, like I was dating him. And this guy knew it, but he really didn't care. So what this guy would do would, he would whisper to me, because we had to wash cars, because we were groundskeepers, so we would wash cars, like clean the parking lot, all of that. And he would whisper like, I can't believe you won't be with me, Kiara, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get you and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Why won't you talk to me? I don't know why you just won't date me. Now, at that time, this was like 2011. It was like 2011, 2012, but I think it's 2011. And no, it was 2012, I believe. But at that time, I was very timid. I'm not like how I am now. I was way more nice. I was so, like, just really, really more of a pushover. I'm getting out of the pushover phase, and I attribute that to all of the harassment that I've been through. So how this harassment has affected me personality-wise is I'm more vocal. I'm more disillusioned. I don't really trust that many people. I don't smile at that many people. I'm always cautious, especially if it's like a guy I feel that's attracted to me. I just try to like keep my boundaries. So not only did this dude do this, he would follow me down the halls. At the end of the day, I would vacuum 5 floors. And the scariest floor was like the first level floor. It was dark, and I was be the only one in the hallway, and there were different rooms, and I'd go in and vacuum. And one day I literally saw him. He was at the end of the hall. We're in a dark hall by ourselves, and I can't remember what happened. Like, I don't know if I told him to go away. I literally don't remember. I think I prayed to God and be like, please don't let this dude like hurt me. So finally, after talking to some people, they're like, you should go to your boss. So that's what I did. I went to my boss. So if you're ever in a situation where you have a coworker doing this to you, go to your boss. If your boss doesn't do anything, go to a higher authority. Go to somebody above your boss. If not, like, file a complaint, like go to the police. I don't know. There's always somebody higher than your employer. Always. So I went to my boss, and I told my boss what was happening. All the men could see what was happening, but none of them really stopped it. Nobody said anything. Nobody stopped him. It was like, it is what it is. I wish I had known at that time about this brotherhood culture where it's like, oh, well, that's just how he was, but I was too young to know that. I was too young. No, I wasn't too young, but I just didn't know because I had no advocate telling me what to do. So I go to my boss and I'm like, hey, this dude is doing this, he's doing that. And he's like, oh, okay. Now, my boss didn't care. My boss was this guy. He was like older white guy, overweight. I think he smoked. Like, he was just really ugly. Okay. And he was very, very racist. He was very racist, and he was very sexist. So me telling him what this guy was doing, it didn't matter. It just fell on deaf ears. And I didn't do anything after that. I should have gone to his higher up, but I didn't, because I just didn't know. I didn't have enough information. So if you are going through this, I say, don't stop until you get results. So at that point, I felt very powerless. My coworkers didn't do anything. The people around me weren't saying anything. My boss didn't literally give a fuck. It was just like... So how it all ended was actually due to me. And there was an incident that happened I must have been so fed up. That's why I don't really carry around sharp objects like that, because I don't trust my own control of my temper. But it was all of us sitting in a room talking, and I don't know what this dude said, the one that was harassing me. I don't know what he said, but I felt this sharp pain in my hand, and I heard a loud noise. And I looked around and saw everybody was gasping, and I thought, what was that? And I realized I had actually slapped him across the face in a room full of dudes. And he was so shocked that he just was like, what just happened? I didn't even know I slapped him. I didn't know I slapped him. I literally didn't know. I literally blacked out and slapped him across his face, and I didn't even realize that it had happened. So for the last 2 weeks of me working there, I gave him the silent treatment, and then I went somewhere else because I was afraid I would get charged with like assaulting somebody. So that was the first incident on the job. Second incident of harassment on the job in a public place was when I was working with children in the library. And there was one particular child that I just kind of stayed away from because I felt he was very dangerous. I worked with children for 13 years, and I've never in my life had a child like this. This boy told me he would always like try to like make some type of advances at me. I was maybe like 23, 24 years old, and so I just avoided him. I just was like, I literally don't know what to do. I don't know who I should go to. Should I go to my boss? Like, it was just very uncomfortable to talk about. If I had the knowledge that I have now, I would have written some type of incident report or had somebody write an incident report about what this child did. It's more difficult when you're having harassment coming from a child because it's a very delicate situation. If you are in an environment working with children and you're experiencing this, the thing I really, really want you to do, especially if you're new working with children, get everything in writing, document everything, because some of these children will twist your story and next thing you know, you're on the list. I kid you not. I've already had like 3 children try to set me up one time. So this little boy who was 13, who was always like in the streets. I don't know what he did. He just hung out with the wrong crowd. He told me he was going to break into my house and RAPE me. And not did he just tell me this once. He told me this like 2 or 3 times. So I just was always very uncomfortable being around this kid. And every time he came, like, I just would like go somewhere else. The second incident that happened when I worked at the library was 2 separate times, men tried to trap me in elevators. One was an older black man. He must have been in his 40s or 50s. He tried to trap me in an elevator. He tried to like pressure me into the elevator, but I hit him with my cart. The other one was this tall black guy that was like really large and maybe in his 50s, and I believe he had a mental illness. He literally blocked the elevator doors. Like, that was the first time I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to die in this elevator. But like I said, you need to move. Like, I just said, you need to move, and that was the only reason I didn't get hurt, because he was so large. He was literally the size of the elevator doors. I kid you not. The next time there was this man that used to follow me in the library. He would follow me down the aisles, and not only did he follow me, he would like follow this other girl that worked there. She's a young white girl, and he would bother her too. Now, because he was such a problem, security was on his case, like security and all of that. So I believe he was banned from the library. There was also another person, and I'm going to bring this up even though it didn't happen to me. I just want to show you the extent that harassment could go at a job. So I had a coworker who would shelve books, and this dude wanted her number and she wouldn't give it to him. And this man literally knocked every single one of her books off of her cart, like basically flipped over her cart. I don't even know if he was banned. I don't know. He was just like, he should have been banned for life, but apparently he was only banned for like a couple of months. But still, if you are a person who employs people, you need to take your employees' safety seriously, especially if it's like a woman. They're always, especially if it's like a young woman, or it doesn't even have to be a young woman, it's just a woman in general. I mean, people will be like, oh, she's smiling at me, she must like me. I'm gonna flirt with her at the register. I'm going to flirt with her and blah, blah, blah. Because she's serving me, she has to like me. She has to pay attention to me. I say if you're an employer, pay attention to those certain things. Like set boundaries with your customers. Because customers will do that. They'll be like, oh, I want her to help me with it. I want her to blah, 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 blah. I've had it all the time. Then, of course, in the workplace, I've had 2 sexual advances from 2 different bosses. And just at that point, I was just kind of over it. All of this whole span of things with the job category, that happened between 2013 and 2021. Next category, street harassment. Street harassment, I feel, is like one of the scariest because you're just walking, like you feel kind of safe because it's open, everybody can see you, but you never know who is just gonna walk up and just attack you out of the blue. I have 2 examples of street harassment. The first one was, I have 3 examples of street harassment. The first one happened in like 2018, 2017, 2018. No, maybe it was 2016. It was between 2016 and 2017. I was walking up the street to go to work, and this man passed by. He was a short or medium height black dude that had locks. He must have been in his late 20s, early 30s. I pass him. I'm not thinking anything of it, because I see him. He's like going down the street. So like I'm on my way to work. I'm not thinking. All of a sudden I jump because I feel something. And what this dude had done was he stuck his whole arm up my skirt. And he stuck it up there like so far. Like I jumped. I was like, what the hell? And he just smiled. Like it was just completely normal. So I start screaming at him. And I start throwing things at him, but he doesn't care. So he drops 3 things on the ground. He drops a food stamp card. He drops a credit card. No, he drops 4 things. He drops, I think, his ID. And then he dropped a piece of paper. And the piece of paper was from the court. He had been in court the day before for standing in somebody's yard and exposing himself in the middle of their yard. So I called the police, and they're like, what did he look like? And I was just so over I was just so disturbed that I didn't go to work that day. I felt so violated, and I literally, I don't know. So then the officers are like, "You want to press charges?" And I said, "Okay, I'll think about it." If I could go back in time, I would have pressed charges, but I didn't, because I didn't want to relive it again. I didn't want to see his face again. I was just so, that was the first time like I felt like my body was not mine at all. Like it didn't matter. I almost stopped wearing skirts. Like it was crazy. I felt so uncomfortable and just gross, and I wanted to just bathe in like 7 pounds of salt. So the next incident was, anyway, the lesson from that is, if you go through something like that, please press charges. Don't hold back. Don't be like how I was and feel uncomfortable. Even if you need somebody to be there with you, I recommend that you press charges, because these strange people need to have a record. I don't even know why he was let out on the street after exposing himself in somebody's yard, like a complete stranger's yard. Can't you tell this is a sexual predator, but you let him out? I literally don't know what's going on. Even now, like, I've been hearing of these cases where these people with like whole track records, been arrested 44 times, or like multiple charges of assault, are literally let out on the street. I think it's on purpose. I really believe there's some type of diabolical scheme going on where they just want people to just have a mini neighborhood war. Like, I don't know what the end goal is, but if you are a person, if you're a woman or whatever, be careful. Be careful, especially after you press charges. If you have to move, then move. Especially if you live in a town where people know each other, I would say make sure that you have some type of protection on you. Because sometimes these people won't learn until they're in heaven or hell or wherever they're going to go. Sometimes that's the only way they can learn, because they're not going to stop until Winchester stops them. The next incident of street harassment happened when it happened maybe, it must have happened like, it was either last year or sometime in 2020. I literally don't know, but it was not 3 years ago. It was 1 or 2 years ago. I'm walking down the street to go get a cookie, having a nice day, and this dude is sitting down on the ground over by like a wall where they have little benches and different things where people play and all of that. So he's sitting down. I'm about to go get a cookie, and this dude says, "Hey, hey." Now, me personally, this is how I operate. I don't answer to hey. I don't answer to car horns. I don't answer to hey, hey, hey. Don't call me from your porch. Don't call me from your car. Don't honk me from your car. I'm not going to turn. The reason I'm not going to turn is because I am a lady. If you want me that badly, get out of your ugly little car and introduce yourself. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your intentions are. You're mad that you end up like with a street worker or sex worker because that's what you're trying to make me out to be. Not that I have anything against sex workers, but I don't know why you complain about them, complain about women doing this and that, but how you approach them is what you end up getting. But whatever. Don't call me from a car. I'm not going to turn my head. I'm going to keep walking. I don't care if I don't have headphones in. You're either going to call me miss, or you're going to call me ma'am, or you're going to call me queen, but you're definitely not going to call me baby because I am not an infant. You're not going to say hey because I'm not a horse, or A because I'm not the alphabet. So I'm walking. I'm just walking because, Negro, you sitting. Oh, yeah. forgot his description. He was like 20, in his early 20s, a black guy. Um, I can't remember his hair. He was kind of shortish and skinny. Yeah. So I'm like, you're sitting on the ground doing what? Like, what do you want me to do? Sit on the ground with you? That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not turning my head. I'm almost there to go get my freaking cookie, and I feel something touch my shoulder. I turn around, it's him. He had literally snuck up behind me. And he's like, hey, I just wanted you to acknowledge me. I just wanted you to acknowledge me. First of all, what the fuck? Okay. I said, I don't even know what I said. I don't know what I said. I was just so freaking shocked that so many things were going through my brain. It was the first time I stopped being afraid if the guy had a gun on him. I knew that he could have a weapon on him. I knew that he could possibly shoot me. But at that time, and you'll hear the other stories, by that time I had gotten harassed so much, I was so desensitized that I'm like, I would rather be dead than to just be so objectified by complete strangers. Like, I don't give a fuck if you shoot me. What's that gonna mean to me? I die, I'll haunt you forever. I die, you're going to die too. In one way, shape, or form. I might haunt you in the afterlife. I really don't know. That's why people are like, oh, Kiara, he might have a weapon. He might have a gun. Do you think I don't know that? I don't care anymore. Because this is what I have become. I'm not really afraid. Like, I'll just look at you. Because I would rather die you knowing that I never wanted you as a single woman. I never wanted you in particular. So, last incident of street harassment was so freaking crazy. Like, wow, it was so crazy. Like, I have never had, it was worse than the one I just told you. I'm outside of the freaking grocery store. Now, mind you, this is a grocery store full of people. And I had so many realizations that day that it really changed my perspective of nobody is coming to help you. I'm standing outside of the grocery store. I'm talking to this elder guy. He is a black guy. I call him elder because he's like my elder, but he's probably in his 60s. I think he had injured his foot, so he was sitting down. He either had sprained his foot or broken his foot. So we were just talking because sometimes I'll be near the store and I'll just talk to him, blah, 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 blah. So we're just talking, having conversation in a freaking crowded grocery store parking lot. Why? Out of nowhere, here comes this dude. Short, black dude. Actually, he might have been my height. I'm 5 feet tall, even. So he might have either been 5 feet or a little bit taller than 5 feet. He wasn't skinny. He wasn't overweight. He was kind of muscular. I believe he had locks. He comes out of nowhere and he just starts yelling at me. Like, yelling at me. He walks up to me. He's like, hey! And I'm like, what the hell? Like, he just walked up. Hey! So I'm like, what? Now, this was not too long after the other dude, the one that like came up to me and said, I wanted you to acknowledge me. This was not long after that incident happened. So by that time, I was just desensitized, which is why I had the reaction I had when this particular situation happened. He's like, I've been asking you out for 2 years and you won't give me an answer. You won't. I'm like, have I always, like, he's in my face screaming. And I'm like, well, did I say no? He's like, yeah, you keep saying no. You keep saying no. I'm like, well, I'll say no again. I'll just say no again. he just starts screaming. Yeah. I said, dude, you need to back off. Like, you too close. Like, you are literally too close. Like, why are you so angry? This is what I asked him. Why are you so angry? Like, why can't you accept my no? So I'm doing this. This is going on. There's a whole parking lot full of people. And all these dudes just standing there. Useless. Useless. That was the epiphany I had that day, by the way. How useless. Like, that was the first time I'm like, I cannot depend on these men to save me because they're not going to save me. I shouldn't even look for somebody to come and save me because they are not coming. I don't know why it had to happen. The same kind of situation had to happen 4 times for me to understand that. But I knew at that time that no man was coming. They weren't going to come. They weren't going to say nothing. And I proved myself right that day because there was a man over there just kind of watching. There's another man over there watching. There was another man over there recording. This was a guy that was taller than the other dude bothering me. This man had big muscles, black dude, in his truck. He could have come and helped me, but he's just recording. Useless. Completely useless. Why were you even born? I don't understand. So everybody's afraid of this dude, even though he's the one in my face. Even though he's inches away from my face. I'm the calmest one, but everybody that's like 7 feet away from him is scared of him. Okay. I didn't care if he was going to shoot me. I didn't care if he was going to punch me in the fucking face. I did not care because my no is going to go with me to the grave. I'm not changing my answer. I don't care how loud you freaking scream. He got so mad. He stomped off. He stormed off. There was security there, but nobody did anything. Not even security. What is the point of having security if you're not going to make me feel secure? He goes off in a car. And so later the security guard's like, yeah, you probably need to get a weapon or something. You probably just, it's dangerous out here. Yeah, the fuck I know it's dangerous out here. Like, you think I don't know that? I just need some of y'all to do your job. But anyway, so stupid. So final category. Oh, yeah, the solution. If you have a store, a business, or something, please make sure you have quality security. If you are a bystander and you know you can take down this person, please do something. Especially if you see a woman in distress, a woman in danger. Like, don't just stand there and be useless. Do something. I just don't understand. The last category, harassment on the bus and train. Now, I know a lot of people like, yeah, all these crazy incidents happen to you and the bus. And first of all, it doesn't matter if you have a car. It doesn't matter if you're walking. Because as I mentioned, you can be harassed at your job. You can be harassed walking down your street. You can even be harassed at where you're living. So I don't know why I have to alter my complete life in order to appease these guys. Because I could be doing all that and still get harassed. So the first incident of harassment on the bus happened when I was about 23 years old. I would take this particular bus, and there was this man that always bothered me. Like, he would always have a pile of money, and I don't know how he got this money, if it was selling drugs, I don't know what it was. But he would always just bother me, and the bus driver never did anything. This was the only bus route I could take home. And this was in the middle of the day. This wasn't at night. This dude came up one day. It was the final straw. He whispered in my ear. He came up and whispered in my ear, and I slapped him. because he would flip the money like, you like money, you like money. What do I look like to you? Do I look like a prostitute to you? I'm literally dressed like a church girl on the bus. What do you mean, do I like money? I don't know who the hell you are. But years later, I did end up like getting him, because he tried to do that to me one day, and I just snapped, and I chased him around the bus shelter with a knife. I was gonna stab him, and he said, "I'm gonna get my wife to beat your ass." So I said, "Bring her." So I waited for an hour with my knife. I was so ready. I was ready for them, but he never showed up. Probably because he didn't want to get in trouble with his wife. I'm like, if you're gonna talk it, like, back up your words. I'm backing up my words. I have my knife already. I have several knives. But you scared. Okay. You're taller than me. You scared of me. All right. Then, next incident. There was a man. Oh, that guy, he was a black guy. He was like maybe in his 40s, slender. The next incident is this man that bothered me 3 times. And the 3rd time was his final charm. And I know I've mentioned this story before, but I'm going to mention it again. This man, the first time he bothered me, black guy, I think he had a mental illness. I probably was in his 30s or 40s. First time he bothered me was when he tried to grab me on the bus, and I said, "No, stop." Then, several months later, I'm sitting outside of a cafe reading a book. He jumps behind me, and he licks my neck. And I scream, because I didn't know what the hell had just happened. I look up, and it's him. He's like, "Ha!" So I throw something at him, but he ran off too fast. So I made a mental note to myself. I said, the next time this man comes, I'm beating his ass. He's gonna die. So one day, I'm walking, enjoying my beautiful day. This was months and months later. He sees me across the street. And he doesn't know that I see him. So he's like, "Oh, there she goes. Let me go bother her." He jumps in front of me on the sidewalk. But I was swinging my keys. I had an entire set of keys that I was swinging, gaining momentum. And so the moment he jumped in front of me, I slashed him in the eyes with my entire set of keys. It went all across his eyes. And he screamed, and he fell to the ground. So I started kicking him in the head. And I said, "Don't you ever in your life." And I don't know whatever I said. I just blacked out. I just said, "Don't you ever in your life." And that's all I remember. I know there were some cars honking. They're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" So I just step over him and walk away. He's still on the ground, like, "Oh," he's crying. So several months later, I saw him again. He saw me. He went down a completely different block. Like, "Yeah, you want this work again? You want it again? You want to come and get it again? Okay." That's what I thought. I don't care if they have a mental illness. I don't care if they're of a sound mind. Every single one of them are getting this work. You want to get hurt? Because I've never gotten hurt. They've always gotten hurt if I had the chance to hurt them. Next incident on the bus happened. It was ages ago. I don't even remember what year. But I'm getting to a point where I want to hide my hair, because a lot of times, a lot of the issues come with like people grabbing my hair. So this dude ran his hands down my hair, and then he smelled my hair. Like, what the hell? I don't remember what year it was. I know it was a black dude. He was tall, and he just came up close to me and did that. So I can't remember what year, because I blocked it out of my mind. The next incident that happened was it was earlier this year. This man came up to me on the train and tried to trap me in the train seat. And he was trying to pull down his pants on the train. And I got off. I asked other women if they've been through this, and I've met at least 2 people that I know that have, no, not two people. I've met at least one person who this has happened to, but the guy actually completely exposed himself on the train. The next to last example was a couple of years ago. I was on the bus, and this man who was like black guy in his 40s, overweight, with a bucket of chicken, was eating chicken on a crowded bus of men, and he said he was going to RAPE me. He was threatening me, and at that time, I was not as outspoken as I am now. And I was just waiting on these guys to say something, because we were on a bus full of black guys. Like, they range between 20 through like 60 plus years old. I'm just waiting for them to say something, and they're just watching. Nobody's standing up, and I'm just like, really? So I asked one, I'm like, can you say something? And the young was like, hey, dude, just leave her alone. Like, it's just not a big deal. Okay, wait till it's your daughter. See if it's a big deal then. See what happens if this dude decides to follow me home and do whatever he wants to do to me. See if that happens when I'm kidnapped and cut up into little pieces and thrown into a mountain. See how serious it is then. You don't take it seriously until it happens to your own little girl. But okay. You think it's funny? So that was where I stopped believing in these dudes trying to save me, because literally none of them, not even bat an eye, not tell them to stop, nothing, just completely, not even half useless, completely useless. I would say it a third time if I wasn't about to drink my fucking tea. Completely useless. So I said, you know what? Since I can't depend on these guys, I'm going to have to do it myself. I'm going to have to stand up for myself. That was where I went from being polite and kind and soft to being who I am now. And I went up to him, and I knocked his whole bucket of chicken out of his hand, and I slapped him. And he got so upset. He's like, ah, my chicken. He started throwing chicken legs at me, but he kept missing because he couldn't throw. But I'll always remember that day. I'll always remember that day when I got off the bus and a 60-something-year-old black man said, was that you defending yourself? Oh, I'm so glad you stood up for yourself. Yeah, of course I had to do useless old man. Of course I had to. You had one job to do, but you didn't do it. Not only you, but all of you. Useless. So, after that, I started being like really, really aggressive. I went from being polite and kind to being super aggressive, because it was like I couldn't be soft. I couldn't wear what I wanted. I couldn't just be free. I couldn't be me. I couldn't go to work, and I couldn't sit in a park. I couldn't read outside of a cafe without somebody doing something. You can't even have your own job without somebody trying to throw in less. Like, will it ever end? I don't know. So the final incident literally happened 3 days ago, and it literally combined everything I have been talking about in this video, okay? So I'll try to make it short. I'm sitting on the freaking bus going to work, and this dude comes up to me. He sits across from me. He's like, hey, you look nice today. Oh, I just love your pretty brown skin. Oh, and this is a black dude. Black dude that didn't seem like he bathed at all. Like, just ashy looking face and just crazy looking hair. So, probably in his 30s. So he goes on for just 5 minutes saying nothing, just the most disgusting thing. So I'm just trying to just be like, if I just be quiet, he will go away. Because I literally can't depend on these dudes on the bus, because they've never saved me before. So why the hell do you think they're going to save me this time? Even though the bus is 95%, oh, probably 85% dudes, most of them black dudes. maybe they'll say something. I knew they weren't going to say anything. And of course I was right. But what threw me off was when this dude gets up, he goes to a completely different woman. It's another black girl, light-skinned girl, and he starts talking to her worse than he's talked to me. And it was just so disgusting. Like, do some... Oh my God. I'm like, okay, I could see it once, but you're gonna let this fly twice? Dudes, you're gonna let this fly twice? Bus driver, you're literally going to let this all happen. So he's just standing there across from the girl, like, yeah, I'd love to drink your bathwater. Yeah, look at your pretty light skin. And why are you making this girl feel so uncomfortable? She just wants to go to freaking work. She doesn't want to hear what you have to say. So I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting on these dudes to say something, and none of them say nothing. So I say, you know what? I'm just going to say something because I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of this shit. All of this is a buildup to what I'm about to say to this dude right now. So I said, dude, why don't you just shut the fuck up? Can you just please shut the fuck up? And then, like, everybody turns. Like, he's like, oh, so you're mad? Oh, I would try to talk to you. Now I'm talking to another girl. And this other guy, this other black guy said, yeah, I noticed that. Oh, yeah, she's jealous. Negro, no, it's because you're fucking useless. That is why I said something. Because you're useless. Oh, my God. So we start screaming. We're just like, I'm like, bus driver, can you please get this man off the bus? Look, you can see him. He harassed me. He's harassing another woman. You're literally going to let him stay on the bus. This bus driver's like, yeah, what stop are you getting off on, man? I have never been that disgusted as I've ever been. Like, I mean, look. Then there was another man laughing. And then there was another man recording. And I just started to wonder, like, I said, you know, I told him, like, you know what, like, he's calling me a whore. He calling me a hoe. He calling everybody, every woman on the bus a hoe. But none of these men saying anything. They just letting it happen. I've never seen such a mass display of cowardice in my entire life. The only person that said something was one guy. Maybe 10 minutes later, he's like, man, you need to stop. You just stop doing that. And he's like, ah. So there was something in the argument that I specifically remember. This man, basically, he literally said he would fight me, but he won't fight a dude. Think about that. You're going to fight me, who is smaller than you, but you won't fight another man who is your equal. I don't know what whore of hell birthed out these dudes. I don't know if I can call them actual men, but when it comes to street harassment, specifically targeting women, the only two groups of people who can really stop it are other men and the public transportation system. I mean, it's literally gotten out of hand, especially with public transit. Like, there needs to be more security. If you work or over public transit, the more security, the better. I really don't care what anybody says, because when those state troopers, because we had some state troopers that would ride the train, whenever those state troopers would get on, all of the people causing trouble would immediately exit the train. They didn't care about the little train security. They didn't care about the train security. But when it was a state trooper, like an actual officer, then they would behave. I say they don't care about, like, you know, little train people, because, like, even in my own city, they murdered, like, one of the train security got murdered. They shot a bus driver in the fucking head. Like, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I wish there was a study that to see if there's a link between like street harassment of women and femicide. Like, if there's an increase in street harassment or public transportation harassment, is there an increase in femicide? I don't know. But that's my solution, my personal solution. I personally believe the only people that can really make a significant impact on harassment on public transportation are men and the public transportation system. Because they only get away with what they think they can get away with. That's why that man that bothered me and the other woman, he got to finish his route. Why? I don't understand. I literally don't get it. It's not okay. You think it's okay, but it's not okay. Nobody should feel uncomfortable just trying to live their life and exist. Nobody should just be made to be a perpetual sexual object. Street harassment, public harassment, it's literally transformed who I am as a person. Not that I regret like this transformation, but I know how it's affected me. Like how it's affected my self-esteem, how I have a better understanding now of women who were so objectified they literally took their own life. Like, I can understand that now. I get it, because it's a very hard burden to bear, and thinking something like that is funny, it only adds to the problem. I can scream as loud as I want, but until an actual change is made, I mean, what's the point? I can get all of the defense that I need, but I would rather, instead of me having to do all of this and work around the actual issue, I would love for the actual issue to be addressed, so I won't have to go through all of these hoops. Carry mace, carry a gun, carry a knife, don't walk down this and don't go don't wear that. Why do I have to do all of these things just to be a regular human being? Why are you talking to me and not talking to the person that's actually doing it? I am not the problem. So yeah, that is an experience I wanted to share with you. I hope that you learned something. Hope that you know that you're not alone. I would advise that you join advocacy groups that work with issues like this, or if you can't find one, then create one in your own town or city. Create an advocacy group in your job, in your neighborhood, because together we're stronger. We really, really are. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and I will talk to you next time.